Welcome to the Joy Lab podcast, where we help you uncover and foster your most joyful self. Your hosts, Dr. Henry Emmons and Dr. Aimee bring you the ideal mix of soulful and scientifically sound tools to spark your joy, even when it feels dark. When you're ready to experiment with more joy, combine this podcast with the full Joy Lab program over at joylab.coach.
Hi, everyone. It is just me, Aimee. So I'm usually here with Henry. So if I ask questions and he doesn't answer, I'm sorry. I'm used to that. But we're experimenting with different formats for our episodes. And as we noted a few episodes back, we'll soon release even more episodes monthly. So sometimes it'll be me alone like this, or Henry and I, or maybe even some guests. So let us know. Let us know what you're enjoying, what's working for you. You can head over to naturalmentalhealth.com. Just use the contact form, or joylab.coach. Use the contact form. Let us know these episodes are for you. So we want to hear how it's going. So you may already know that we focus on our elements of joy here at Joy Lab, and we are digging into awe this month. So pretty simply, I like to think of awe as a state of feeling sort of both nourished and speechless. There's some wonder and mystery there as well. And for someone that likes to ramble on and on sometimes, being speechless is like totally healing in and of itself. So that sort of moment where you're just kind of washed over with wonder and peace, that's awe. And it can happen daily. We talk about that in episode 4 and in episode 17, the last one as well. But in light of our element of awe, sort of maybe the biggest example of awe, we certainly did ask NASA to release those Webb telescope images for us, and they did. Thanks, guys. No, actually, that's not what happened, but we would have tried to work our connections if we had any there, but the timing was impeccable. In last episode, we discussed how miraculous our bodies are, built with stardust and that ancient process that is part of us. So head over to that episode, number 17, if you haven't listened to that yet. But when the Webb project released those first set of images, there was one that just totally brought me into that state of awe. And it's really what inspired this episode here. So one of those first images sort of offered a glimpse of nearly the birth of our universe, like a little snapshot of how just a sliver of galaxies looked more than 13 billion years ago. And it immediately reminded me of two quotes. The first is from Carl Sagan, and one that Bill Nelson, actually the head of NASA, said as well. So Sagan said, "Somewhere, something incredible is waiting to be known." And the second one that popped up for me is an Alan Watts one in the title for this episode. So it's, "You are that vast thing that you see far, far off with great telescopes." Spot on, right? So I think that incredible thing waiting to be known is you and me, right? And everybody else. And within each of us is everything we're seeing in those Webb telescope images. So understanding ourselves more, being in awe of ourselves and of our fellow universe dwellers is something incredible. That's what I think. And I know it sounds cheesy or vague or something, but it's what we keep finding with all our more sort of precise telescopes and microscopes. As we look further out and look closer in, we find out sort of how unfathomably complex and completely interconnected we all are. And I love how Eric Smith, one of the lead scientists of the Webb project, described witnessing those images as well. He said, "A lot of people sometimes see pictures of space and it makes them feel small. When I see these pictures, they make me feel powerful." And what I think that Smith is describing is actually something called small self phenomenon. And we talked about this in episode 4, and it's worth highlighting again here. This small self experience occurs when we witness something like those Webb images, something that makes us feel like we are a small part of something much bigger. which doesn't sound so great initially, right? But when we let ourselves be with that experience, it's actually amazing for mental health. It can really help us to position ourselves back into reality. As we see those Webb images, the reality is that we are, in fact, a small part of something much, much, much bigger. And that recognition can help us put problems into perspective, help us to empathize more with others. It can also shift us from getting caught up in our own little stories of successes or failures, or these sort of constant self-evaluations, or those negative, more precisely, self-evaluations. We discussed that in an earlier episode as well. But it brings us back into this big universe. And when we do that, the small self phenomenon can help us to feel more connected, to feel more supported by community and more in touch with a purpose. So in a way, these Webb images are sort of like a family album for all of us, which includes this picture of our small self. We can even see that, first galaxy branch on our tree with these images 13 billion years ago. We can look at them and see our connection, our beauty, our mystery, our power. And I think Alan Watts says it so much better than I ever could. And I'll sort of wrap up with this, with his words. Here's what he said. It's like you took a bottle of ink and you threw it at a wall, smash, and all that ink spread. And in the middle, it's dense, isn't it? And as it gets out on the edge, the little droplets get finer and finer and make more complicated patterns. So in the same way, there was a big bang at the beginning of things and it spread. And you and I, sitting here as complicated human beings, are way, way out on the fringe of that bang. We are the complicated little patterns on the end of it. But so we define ourselves as being only that. If you think that you are only inside your skin, you define yourself as one very complicated little curlicue, way out on the edge of that explosion, way out in space and way out in time. But billions of years ago, you were a big bang. But now you're a complicated human being. And then we cut ourselves off and don't feel that we're still the big bang, but you are. If this is the way things started, if there was a big bang in the beginning, you're not something that's a result of the big bang. You're not something that is a sort of puppet on the end of the process. You are still the process. You are the Big Bang, the original force of the universe, coming on as whoever you are. When I meet you, I see not just what you define yourself as, Mr. So-and-so, Miss So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so. I see every one of you as a primordial energy of the universe coming on at me in this particular way. I know I'm that too, but we've learned to define ourselves as separate from it. So that was Alan Watts. And I'll say as well, sort of in line with Watts, you didn't come into this world, you came out of it. You are the awe that you feel when you look at those telescope images or that awesome sunset. That's you. You are never out of place or broken. You are completely connected, totally essential, an important piece of something much bigger. And all of those incredible bits of you are just waiting to be known.
Thank you for listening to the Joy Lab podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, visit joylab.coach to subscribe for your monthly infusion of joy and to learn more about the full Joy Lab program. Be sure to rate and review us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.